Changes are made and the board is in agreement.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Clint?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And I will vote yes, that motion passes. Item 2, discussion and consideration of a resolution approving an interlocal cooperative agreement with South Valley Sewer District and Central Utah Water Conservancy District. Heather?
Hello, Mayor and Council. Mitch, can you pull up my PowerPoint? So this is the Herriman Innovation District CDA that you approved in June, and this is the first two interlocals, one from South Valley Sewer and one from Central Utah Water Conservancy District. And you'll see the others trickle in as they finalize those with their boards. Do you have any questions?
What was their participation level?
Both were 75%.
Is that what we asked for?
Yes.
Okay. Is that pretty consistent ask across the agencies?
Yeah, we start there.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
So this just shows it's a 15-year CDA. Total expenses on this is $5.3 million, and the project expenses are $17 million. So we have about $7.5 million to spend with the taxing entities once we have all of those contributing. The 38 acres is the annexed area that annexed January. Has it already been that long? And the infrastructure work is just for the public water, public street, so forth. And there's the percentages and the totals over the 15-year. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Any just go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion by the council?
Nope.
Okay, I'll accept a motion.
I'll motion to approve resolution number R2019-10, approving an interlocal cooperative agreement with South Valley Sewer and Central Water Conservancy District.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I will vote yes, that motion passes. I'll accept a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn the Community Development Renewal Agency of Herriman City.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That was a fun meeting, wasn't it? All right, we will now welcome you to our general meeting for the Herriman City Council for August 28th, 2019. We will start with a Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Kylie Denero, if I said that correctly. Denero? I totally said
Still
that
not
wrong.
right.
I can't hear, I'm sorry. So,
Denero.
if you would please come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Item 5.2 on our agenda. Any comments or recognitions by our city council today?
I just have one. I was able to attend an open house at the new state liquor store that is opening in Herriman on Friday today. And I will just share with you a phone call I received a few months ago asking me to do everything I could to not allow the liquor store to be here. This woman had lost her young son to a drunk driver, and her daughter had been the driver in the car at the time, and she is now 40 and has been unable to drive since that accident for various reasons. So she has seen the irresponsible use of alcohol severely impact her life and the lives of her children. And we can see both sides of it. We have those rights to partake of alcohol, and that's absolutely people's right to do that. I would just, again, ask and implore our residents and people who patron this store just to do it responsibly. There's some great things they talked about today. There's some of the sales, a percentage of the profits from the sales go to help educate, that they directed at parents to help them be educated, to help their kids avoid underage drinking and things like that. So there's a lot of really good things that can come from the sales of this to help people be responsible. I am grateful that we have an opportunity to have this in our community, but I would just, again, ask us to be just always cognizant of that, to be responsible when we drink so that we don't negatively impact the lives of other people. And I definitely appreciate the people that were at the store and the managers and the education that they provide to their staff to help them to make sure that we do not have people that are coming in there underage and buying alcohol. They have a great education program there. They showed us the different computers and things there that they have now, that they do that training right in the store with their employees, so that they make sure that those problems are avoided as much as possible. So I appreciate that there's so much that goes into trying to lessen any negative impacts it could have. But again, it comes back to the will of the individual to follow that. And I would just put my voice out there to encourage people to be responsible about it.
I'll just give a quick update. Last week, I was able to attend both, as a representative from our city, both COG and WFRC last week. And just a quick update on those. At COG, much of the agenda and discussion focused around the 2040 choice, which Carlton Christensen talked about to us in our work meeting from UTA, and providing that feedback in terms of our prioritization and allocation of current and future resources in terms of the UTA transit system within our area. So there was a lot of discussion there amongst all of the COG members on, again, what those percentages look like. And certainly there was a recognition there that afternoon of the fact that depending on where you're at in the county, there are certainly different needs. And trying to balance that is challenging, but hopefully I did represent the Southwest Quadrant in terms of the need for improved transportation options out here in the Southwest Quadrant, especially as we grow. At the conclusion of that meeting, we essentially moved straight uptown for our WFRC meeting, and really the highlights of that meeting, a couple things that we've touched on earlier, is that the full board did approve the recommended board modifications to the 2019-2024 TIP, or the Transportation Improvement Program. In terms of the projects that were outlined in there, or actually some of the changes in costs to some of those projects that were in there, and the board also did approve the new 2020 to 2025 Transportation Improvement Program that now outlines those future projects that are moving forward in terms of transportation infrastructure within the Wasatch Front. Lots of things. Again, the big ones on the docket coming forward will be the next, I believe it's the next three on Bangor highways. There are 3 or 4 interchanges that are coming in. 3. 2 of them on the south end here, with 114th and 126th. 104 and 126th coming. So those will be going out to bid, and anticipation of those projects both kicking off in the spring. So improvements coming, but with that comes the challenges of construction as well. So just wanted to give that update to the council.
Thank you. All right. We will now move on to the public comment section of our meeting. Audience members may bring any item to the City Council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. We will begin with, I do have 2 comment forms, so we'll begin with those individuals first. First, I have Kevin Allred, looks like. If you want to come to the podium, please, once again, state your name and let us know. Please give your comment.
Good evening. So my name is Kevin Allred, and I'm speaking today as a business owner, also as a resident of Herriman. So I know the city's done a lot of great things. I know there's been a lot of issues and a lot of talk about the development, the residential side of things, but I would like to implore the city and the city council to give the direction to be able to help us be more economically sound as well. To work on being more open to businesses. One of the issues that we see now, and I know that Gordon and Brett have done a great job on some of these things, that there's just a lack of opportunities for businesses to move in at this time. And I think that that's super important, because one, that's going to help our tax base go, and I think that you guys are well aware that we need that side of things. But it's also long-term is going to give us a better diplomatic arm to stand on as we try to work with some of these agencies, try to pull help from UTA, how to pull help from UDOT and things of that nature as well. So I would just ask that we are cognizant of that and also looking for resources. I don't feel like this burden should be placed on your guys' shoulders alone. I think that it would be very important to implore help from Chamber of Commerce's that are very active and very business savvy, so that we have that avenue, so we have more tools in the toolbox, so it were to work with. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but I'll be short. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next we have Lauren Smith.
Good evening, I'm Lauren Smith. I reside and built my home over by the new high school. My property borders the SLR property that is zoned currently as low density. I understand that there's going to be a proposal made to this council that density would change. I'm here in opposition of that. When I bought that home, we came to the city and we looked at the zoning and we made our plans to build our home that we planned on retiring in on that property, not to be surrounded in high-density homes. That's the biggest purchase of our life. And we planned ahead for that. And we would like the city council to take into consideration the people who have already invested in that property, who've already invested in Herriman, who live in Herriman, but aren't just building here. The other concern I have is that the city is trading out a lot of the property that they have zoned as lower density for high density, or they're even changing residential zoning, for instance, around the city center, from commercial or mixed density or zoning to housing and high density. Herriman, particularly in this county, in this area, carries the brunt of high-density housing. We have developed faster and more efficient, well, I wouldn't say efficiently, we have developed high-density housing at a rate that's unsurpassed. I'm a member of the Herriman for Responsible Growth and Utah for Responsible Growth, and we look into these issues and realize that the brunt of this development should not be on Herriman alone. And if you take and look at the traffic patterns that are already developing from the already established density, and then you look at what may happen, even at the best case scenario with Olympia Hills, Herriman shouldn't contribute to that problem.
I'm going to ask you to start wrapping up your
Okay.
comments. Your 2 minutes has expired.
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say something?
Please.
Just want you to know that I personally obviously did receive your email along with several others about the same issue, and I just wanted to acknowledge that and again applaud any resident that will proactively reach out to us individually like that, not necessarily on social media, but actually email us their concerns. Greatly appreciate that because that helps us make better decisions according to what our residents' wants and desires are. So thank you for that.
I should invite you both to the meeting that Stephen Shields is putting on at the high school, and also one that Ed is going to host as well. We would like to see the city council members there. We expected to be there before we did. We were uneducated that we weren't going to be there. We'd like you to hear us at those meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just make
Yeah.
one comment that's more of a general statement. Thank you for your statement, for coming tonight. I just want to make one thing clear. As we came in as a council, one element that we looked at that was sort of an informal, agreed upon policy was just the opposite of what you said, and I just wanted to clarify. We actually are looking at residential properties and trying to convert them to alternate uses. That's always been something that we've tried to do, where we can find industrial pieces so we can create daytime job population, commercial elements so we can bring in sales tax revenue. So we are not doing the opposite of that. We're not taking properties that are zoned commercial and industrial and making them certainly not high density. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. We're looking to reduce high density properties and put them to uses that we need in terms of, as I've said, sales tax revenue and daytime population to make those economic development centers successful. So just to be clear, that's something that we've always been in agreement with. So we agree with you in terms of very much so that Herriman should not bear the brunt of high density housing, and we'll continue to be strong advocates for that, and with your group as well. Thank you.
The other point too, just to your point, if the meetings are designed as a community community outreach meeting, like if the community facilitator puts together that meeting with the developers, we are actually by design uninvited. That's why we don't show up. Is because the design behind the community facilitators was to create an atmosphere where they could just feel free to talk with the developer and not have the council members there. Now, if we have to relook at that, we can relook at that. But that, just so you know, that is why we don't participate in there, because by design, we're not supposed to.
Okay. Okay, all right, so public comment's still open, so for those, if there's anybody else that would like to make a public comment at this time, please feel free to step forward and state your name and give us your comment. Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public comment section of our meeting. We will move on to our city council board committee reports, board and committee reports from the council members.
I just have one from the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling. I feel like I'm a poster child up here for recycling education, just so you know. We actually completed the survey for the recycling, and I just flipped the page and didn't write it down. There was about 79% overall, and Herriman, that's the average overall of the service area, and Herriman was right in there about the same, of people who continue to support recycling. Currently, as of last month, it's costing us $70 a ton for recycling, and it costs us $32.85 at the most for just garbage. So it's a little more than double that what we pay to take it to the recycling. And sometimes in people's mind, they think, no, that's not the case. We would be making money off recycling, but it's not the case currently because of some of the changes in the recycling market. But even at that, people continue to be supportive of recycling just because of the environmental benefit that it potentially has. So the biggest issue and part of the thing that drives up the cost on recycling is contaminated recycling. If you throw your pizza box in there, it can't be, and it takes an individual to pull that kind of stuff out, so that drives cost up because the labor goes up. If you bag up your recycling and throw it in with a bag, that all goes to the dump. And so really know what you're throwing in your recycling cans. Be responsible about the things that we recycle, and that will help drive down the processing costs of recycling and help mitigate the difference between what it would cost to send it to the landfill and what it costs to have it recycled. I think that was kind of all.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Sherry, on the recycling? I saw a presentation recently dealing just with this issue, recycling. And when it came to the true recyclables, and I want to make sure it's the same for our residents here, because they dealt with a different recycling company where this presentation was made. But I was told that corrugated cardboard, plastic bottles with a neck and a lid, and basically aluminum or tin cans were basically the only items that are currently of value to recycle. Is that?
Yeah, and it changes pretty consistently. So my counsel always is maybe once a month pop onto the website for Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling, because that's who is processing our recyclables, and just go, oh, okay, this is still okay to throw in there. This is what I throw in there. It used to be you threw your junk mail in there, but
There's no value
there's
to
no
paper
value.
at all, is what I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, it just goes to the landfill.
Yeah.
So, which
I think it used to be that the kind of the mentality was when in doubt, you threw it in the recycle can, where it probably should be exactly the opposite now, is when in doubt, just throw it out and help us really focus on what is recyclable and keep those costs as minimal as possible. Is that correct?
exactly. Yep.
Thank
yep.
you.
Try and cover the gap between the two.
No, someone else used it. I stole it.
When in doubt, throw it out.
All right,
And I gave my updates ahead of time. I was just so anxious to
I know you were.
share WFRC with you guys. I took it out of turn. I apologize.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, we will move on to our reports and presentations. We will start with item 8.1, Herriman Police Department Officer Oath of Office Ceremony. Chief Carr.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our family has grown. It is an honor tonight to introduce to you 2 new members, and I'll turn the time over to Chief Reyes to do that while we hand them their badge and have the family come up and pin it. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Chief Reyes.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce two new officers that just recently joined the Herriman Police Department. Both are experienced officers. Our first is Officer Chad Buck, so if him and his family could come up here. Chad grew up in Livermore, California, where he met his wife, Kelly. Together they have two children. Their son is Jack, and he's 8, and then Dylan is their daughter, who is 6. Chad is actually a very experienced law enforcement officer. He came to us from San Mateo County Sheriff's Office in California, where he was a deputy, and then he worked in several specialty units, including the Gang Task Force, Human Trafficking Task Force, and the SWAT team. He was also a field training officer and then earned his bachelor's degree in criminal justice and was promoted to sergeant there before he decided to move to Utah and join our family. The next officer is Brady Askerlin, so if Brady and his family can join us. Again, Brady is also an experienced officer. He came to us from Cottonwood Heights Police Department, where he spent a little over 2 years. He is married, and his wife's name is Jenica, and they've been married for about 2.5 years, and they have a 6-month-old daughter, and they currently live in Eagle Mountain. Brady's hobbies are anything outdoors, but he says if he had to pick just one, it'd be riding any type of motorcycle. So, we'd like to welcome him to Herriman Police Department. This is kind of a ceremonial moment for us in law enforcement. We like to have our significant others or somebody that's near and dear to us pin the badge on, and it's kind of a symbol of them being part of the law enforcement family and supporting us in our work. And it's important to recognize them as well, because they sacrifice a lot by loaning us their loved one for 40+ hours a week to go out and protect our community.
Thank you very much for that. We'll please invite family up to come take photos, and if we could ask the council to come down and take photos for our tradition and future. Thank you, Chad.
I will also say that both of these men come from a family of law enforcement. Both Officer Buck and Officer Askerlin's fathers were in law enforcement for a long time, and Officer Askerlin's father is actually a deputy chief of police for Salt Lake City Police Department. He joins us here today, so we'd like to ask him to come up and get some photos also.
Mitch, where do you want us? More to this side of the podium. Okay. Apparently no one picks the center point.
To your left. Please cover us up. I'm going to stand right here.
What, you're not sticking around? Thank you very much, and we welcome you to our family here. Please, Chief. I know.
That's the most important part that our legal counsel brought to our attention. We should probably swear them in.
Yes, we need them back inside. Somebody go get them.
And for that, we'll turn it over to Jackie.
Let's get them back in here. I was serious when I said you needed to stay.
Well, if we don't swear them in, then we don't have to pay them, right?
Yes.
Save some money while it's here.
Oh, wait, did Gordon hear that? So we took pictures with non-sworn police officers. We have to redo those.
I have to do all
They're
the pictures
invalid.
again. As they walk out the door.
Like a map.
Enjoy your time with your family, because we know it's precious. All right, we will move on to item 8.2, Copper Mountain Student Recognition. Our city manager, Brett Wood.
Mayor and council, I'm actually pretty excited about doing this. Kylie's been busy, but to get her here, we're glad she's actually taking time for her. She's now a sophomore at Herriman High School. So talk about some of her achievements. As you know, I've been briefing you about my meetings I've been having with all your principals in our Herriman community, and talking about that we are Herriman. And the story I told you 2 or 3 times now about going out to Providence Hall graduation, and hear a story about a girl that received a $187,000 scholarship at the University of Utah for biochemistry and doctor. That just, right? But that just amazed me. And I was going, wow, we got a lot of stories out there in our community. We are Herriman. And so that outreach, I was actually visiting with Principal Cody Curtis at Copper Mountain Middle School. And talking about we want to hear their stories of the great students and the great people we have in our Herriman area, to say that we are all part of this great community and culture. And he told me about this young lady that competed in a Microsoft competition. He told me the story, going, this is exactly what we want to hear about. She's in our community. She might not live in Herriman. You might live on the border. It doesn't matter, right? When you're going to school at Herriman, you're part of our culture and community. So when we have on the back of our police trucks, we are Herriman, Chief Carr put that on the back of our vehicles, it's saying we all are collectively Herriman. Kylie, we're so proud of what you've been able to achieve. So she entered this Microsoft PowerPoint competition, 365,000 applicants, okay? Dialing this in, not small, not a small achievement. She took 3rd place in the nation. The top representing the state of Utah. There was like, what was there, 146 finalists? Yeah. Am I getting that correct off of memory? Something like that. What's really exciting about this, and I appreciate your mom and dad bringing you, because there's your support team. that's helped you achieve these goals. Kylie wants to be a hematologist. She wants to become a doctor. We're going to be watching you. We're already proud of you. And I didn't know you until tonight, personally. But we're very excited to recognize you because you are the representation of Herriman's culture. We are Herriman. So thank you for coming. I'm very passionate about Herriman High School. Go Mustangs, right? And these are nice little swag, some notebooks for you to write in, and some other things. It's just showing that we appreciate what you've achieved. It took a lot of hard work. Your principal at Copper Mountain was so proud of you. I'll just tell you that. And then here's just something for your book of memoirs that your mom will put somewhere, and you'll find it about 30 years later. Okay, Council, will you come down and take a picture with Kylie?
We would love to.
Gennaro? Thank you very much. I'm gonna do that stuff.
Learn them at the U.
Mayor and Council, while you're taking your seats, just want to emphasize what you saw just earlier. And each one of these things that are happening, these presentations are very unique. And it does, again, emphasize the culture we've been able to groom and grow here in Herriman. You're going to hear about a life-saving award. We just brought in 2 officers outside Herriman, and they each have their own story, how they got attached and how they were drawn to come to work to Herriman. We say work. I liked what Chad said about family, because we are family. Kylie, you're part of that bigger family. And, you know, I get a little emotional always about when I talk about who we are. And you heard about Chad this week, and the person that shot Dingo was sentenced this week. And we have a very unique group of people here. Council, I'm so proud to be your representative and work with the fine people in Herriman. I can't thank you enough. We're hiring a great team. We've been recruiting well. The downside is we might have made some other agencies not so happy with us. But we're kind of okay with that because we are bringing phenomenal people. And Herriman, by the way, culture-wise, is on the map. You need to understand that and know that and be proud of it. Because a lot of cities out there are struggling to hire officers, and we're having a hard time picking who we're going to take. You saw the cream of the crop that came in this last 2 hires. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next item is a Unified Fire Authority Life Saving Award. Chief Pilgrim.
Yes, Mayor and Council. So tonight we do have another life-saving award that we'd like to present to both our colleagues with Herriman Police Department and some members of the Unified Fire Authority. So what I'm actually going to do is turn the time over to Battalion Chief Wade Watkins. The individuals receiving the award are primarily from his shift. So I'd like him to kind of come up here and do the introduction, kind of give you guys a rundown of the scenario, and then we'll do the formal award presentation. So, Wade.
Mayor, Council, I'm really excited to be here with you, with everybody tonight, and I'm very proud to be a part of the community and I'm very proud to work in this community and live in this community. I was able to meet with the family tonight, and the name of the patient, Mark Menanzer, and his wife, Karen, I listened to their story. I sat in their living room, and I heard about their experience from their perspective, so I'm going to share it from their perspective. On March 6th, about 9:30 a.m., Mark, a community member here, was in his living room watching Star Trek. After he got his workout done at the rec center, and after he had taken care of some business, he went into full rest, meaning his heart stopped. When he went into full rest, his wife smartly opened the door, called 911, started CPR. No hesitation in her process of thinking. At that same time, when she had done that and initiated 911, Officer Andrea Hansen, HPD Officer Andrea Hansen was driving in the area, was notified through dispatch that there was a full rest happening. Exigently and smoothly responded to the home, entered the home, started CPR or continued CPR and relieved the wife. Listening to the story from their perspective and how it felt to them was very moving for me. Understanding that it was an influx of resources coming through their home, solving problems, engaging her, and taking care of her. Shortly thereafter, a larger man in stature came walking in the room. I can only believe it to be Captain Outson. He's larger than life, comes in the room, and offers, the scene presence. He assumed CPR at that time, and teamwork continued on. So, me and my colleague, or me and my bestie, Riley, Chief Pilgrim, have a little saying that we share, and it's teamwork makes the dream work. And truly, in our duties and responding to support our community, teamwork makes the dream work. The fire crew rendered care. They defibrillated the patient from a non-perfusable rhythm, which is ventricular fibrillation, into a perfusable rhythm. And after continuing CPR and rendering further medications, Mark was able to come back into a perfusable rhythm, which is called ROSC, so return of spontaneous circulation. The teamwork continued. The ambulance showed up. Care was transferred. ALS care was taken all the way to the hospital and transferred to the hospital. 8 days later, Mark walked out of the hospital with no deficits. The only thing that his wife offered to me as maybe a deficit is he's increasingly annoying. Beautiful couple in their 60s, wonderful dogs. I was invited in, I was part of it, part of the story. I promised Karen that she would be receiving a life-saving award. They were unable to come tonight. They're out in Facebook land watching this now. We'll make sure that we present her with that award so she understands what she did and why she did it. Seeing the process work, seeing the law enforcement, and I have a hard time saying law enforcement, peace officer walking through the door and rendering that aid that needed to happen. Nothing short of amazing. Again, teamwork makes the dream work. This community is amazing. This family that is part of this community is nothing short of amazing. Their environment and the love that you see in their home and the entertainment related to it, just definitely a home. It is a home in that environment. I did talk to him about what he was doing. He was engaged in watching Star Trek. He can't remember anything else. He can't remember anything about being in the ICU unit for 8 days. He walked out a lot skinnier, and he's a very healthy-looking individual. He credits his wife's thoughts and her purposeful movement interactions to him having a life and continuing a life with his wife. So in that vein, I'm just going to read off the names and the process that came into play. Officer Andrea Hansen of HPD was first arriving. Medic Engine 123 with Captain Craig Outson Michael Sutton, the engineer, Jason Jones, the paramedic, Christian Tucker, the firefighter. Medic ambulance 221 showed up with paramedic Heather Best and Colin Halford. And many of these individuals are here tonight to receive the award. I will receive it in part for the folks that are not there and make sure that they do get the award and the recognition deserved. Just an amazing moment in our community. So with that being said, I think we're ready to have our folks come up and receive these awards. So I'll grab them and present them. If I could have Chief Zolkowski come up, Mayor and Council come down and shake some hands, and I'll read name by name and pass them out.
Shake some babies, kiss some hands. Here we go.
So this award comes with the life-saving challenge coin that they get to keep and have with them and remember what they did and what happened and how it happened. So first, HPD Officer Andrea Hansen. Firefighter Christian Tucker. Thank you. Engineer Michael Sutton, AKA Leadfoot. I only tease him because he's faster and safer than I am driving to calls. Captain Craig Outson. Colin Halford. Colin is one of our part-time EMS.
Sorry, I'm wearing the wrong shirt too. This is all bad.
That's all right.
Paramedic Jason Jones, I'll be taking his award to him, and then Paramedic Heather Best, I will also present that to him. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your support.
Oh, another picture?
One little side note too, when I was talking to this family, when presented with the option to do a podcast about their experience, they want to do that. So we're gonna be able to hear their experience from their perspective, and we'll share that we'll make sure Herriman gets it and is able to share it, so.
That's awesome.
I'll save that.
Quick comment. I think these types of recognitions are what our community's all about. And I appreciate the fact that you come and share them with us And again, in a setting that the rest of the community is able to hear and understand what our first responders, or deal with on a day-to-day basis, obviously, and just the work, the dedication that goes in. Most people obviously can go a lifetime without ever having to utilize a 911 response, and that's really the hope and the goal, but they need to know that they have professionals there that are ready to respond and able to respond when they hit, and obviously having personal relationships with a lot of you that are here tonight that responded. I have the utmost respect for each of you, for the service that you render, and for the opportunity that you have to serve in our community. I very much appreciate it, so thank you.
I just want to quickly say, and this is absolutely not taking anything away from the fire department, because as first responders, I 100% appreciate that. But I know when they did the swearing in, I love that they swear in as peace officers. And then again, Wade, when you were talking, you utilized that, because when Andrea showed up, I'm sure that was instantly some peace that this woman felt. They just bring that sense of peace and help and hope. So I love that that's who you are. So thank you for filling that role.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we will not be offended if you choose to go spend time with your families.
I will.
And they all go. All right, we will move on to our consent agenda. Accept a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
A second.
A motion a second. Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
I will vote yes. That motion passes. Item 10.1, discussion and consideration of an ordinance authorizing text changes to the Land Development Code regarding maximum building heights, remove auto sales, and add stadiums as conditional use in the C2 commercial zone. Bryn.
Thank you. That does not sound nearly as exciting as what we just went through, but I will try. I will try. So we've got 3 different text changes on tonight. The first one, 10.1, is, as you said, has 3 different parts to it. So we'll go through these. The first change is to add a stadium, auditorium or stadium, as a conditional use in the commercial C2 zone. And then the second piece of this is to remove vehicle and equipment rental or sale from all other zones, because we're placing the vehicle sales only in the auto mall zone. So we're just removing them from the commercial and other zones that they're listed in. This one is a change to the height in the C2 commercial zone. Currently it's 45 feet. The Planning Commission's recommendation, and this was their recommendation, is 45 feet as a permitted use, but no maximum height with conditional use approval. The Planning Commission talked about this for quite a long time, and they were comfortable with the conditional use. With the conditional use, we can set standards, so if they want to go extra height, we can require an extra setback, buffering, landscaping, but they felt that they wanted to, and they liked the latitude for, if a 6 or 7 story office building wants to come, we've got that flexibility to offer that to them, so.
Those approvals would still be done through the Planning Commission, correct?
Yep, they still have to come back to the Planning Commission for a conditional use
Not
approval,
to the
yeah.
council.
Not to the council, correct. So again, the Planning Commission had a public hearing on both of these and recommended approval.
Was there any comments in the public hearing?
No.
Can you go back to the vehicle and equipment rental or sale? So we're also restricting the auto rentals then as well from anywhere except the auto zone?
Correct. That's what this would do, yes.
Are we intending to change that later, or is this just a temporary?
We certainly can. The way this is right now, it's because the way it's all in one line, and that's the way it's defined in the ordinance right now. As we continue to clean up the auto mall zone, which we knew we would have to do, then we can add those back in and clean that up.
I'm okay with removing it for now. I'd just like to see it come back and maybe.
The rental piece, yeah.
Yeah, well, just because if we don't have it and somebody wants to be able to do it,
Sure.
We want to make sure that we have a vehicle or a zone which they can. So I'm okay with removing it for now. I just want to make sure we bring that back later.
No, I think that's a valid point. Especially because in the auto mall, our intent is mostly to be headed just towards auto sales. And so it would be way nice rather than have to drive clear to the airports or in a car to have something
True.
more closer, not more closer.
More close. And then was there a specific reason why we are adding auditorium or stadium at this time?
Yeah, probably the biggest reason is because RSL is in the C2 zone. And so we just wanted to make that consistent, adding that there, yeah.
No problem with that.
You know, and looking at this, if you wanted to approve it, leaving the rentals in, you could do that now. You know, because you can make whatever changes to this you want. You could just remove the sale part of it.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. Just rather than a permitted, make it conditional so that either way it has to come back through and we make
Yeah.
sure it's in a place where we'd want it to be.
Yeah.
But I don't think auto rental is a bad idea.
Yeah,
I'm opening to, I think the better option, in my opinion, would be just go ahead and remove it and let staff come.
Let it go back
with
to the
something
planning commission with.
Something prepared that has been vetted by the planning
Okay.
commission. Would be my preference, simply because that way it can go through that process as opposed to just changing it at the very end. Any other thoughts?
Oh,
I would
okay,
support it.
that's good.
Any other questions or comments or discussions regarding this ordinance?
It's currently 45, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and basically all we're just saying is it's kind of adding the maximum height, but it has to be all conditional use.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So I'll clarify, so even if the use was a permitted use, if they wanted a height greater than 45, that would kick it into the conditional
Conditional.
use.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Do we have any conditions in place for that yet, or are we planning on adding them?
For the height,
Yeah.
the conditional use itself allows us to put standards to, our favorite phrase, mitigate the detrimental effects.
But if we,
So if the detriment, you know, if it's next to residential, for example, we could put a condition on it that said you have to be set back an additional 50 feet if you want to be taller,
So
or add
those-
additional landscaping.
those conditions don't already have to be in code.
No.
It can be done by the planning commission, correct?
Yes.
I'm good with it.
Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-27, authorizing the text change to the land development code to alter the maximum building height in the C2 zone, remove auto sales, and add stadiums as a conditional use.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, that motion passes. Move on to item
It
10
doesn't,
point,
it doesn't say rental. Does it need to say that in there, or is it part of that?
it was part of what?
It's in the ordinance, it's
Okay.
in the ordinance that way.
Okay.
Discussion and consideration of an ordinance authorizing a text change to the Land Development Code to change buffering and the technology manufacturing TM zone. Again, Bryn.
All right. So again, this one went to the planning commission. They had a public hearing and recommended approval. This is, as you'll know, the technology and manufacturing zone is a relatively new zone that we created for some of our hopeful industrial and manufacturing areas. One of the things that we noticed was that some of the landscaping and buffering requirements, these all honestly came from other sections of the ordinance. They just weren't in this chapter. And a lot of times, especially with uses like this, potential users want to be given the information and have it readily available. So we found it easier to consolidate it all in one chapter. And then also landowners who are adjacent to this, so they can easily see, well, if this zone is next to me, what kind of buffering can I expect? So none of this is dramatically different than what would already be required by the ordinance. It just consolidates it in the TM chapter. And I've broken it out for you. It was in your staff report this way, and I've broken it out. Again, they all came from either the landscaping chapter or the fencing chapter. But again, just consolidates it into this chapter. So it requires additional trees, additional landscape buffering. The one change that we made that the planning commission recommended was instead of a 6-foot high wall, they wanted an 8-foot high wall. So that is a slight change from the current ordinance. It still requires 20 feet along any streets. And again, just requires additional trees and landscaping. I know there was some discussion about the landscaping elements. This does not require sod, it does not require, it has a tree requirement, 1 tree per, for every 20 feet of fencing along the fence, basically. But that could just as easily be rock or mulch or anything underneath that. There's not a specific sod requirement for that, so.
So it really addresses that concern that we were having.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Are trees normally measured by height when they're installed? Landscaping, I thought it was by like number of inches on the trunk.
Caliper.
Trees, evergreen trees are measured by height. I learned this.
Oh, yeah, evergreens would be.
Yeah, they're not
Yep.
measured by calipers, so
Yep,
there's a
that's true.
difference, yeah.
Okay. Any just questions, discussion, or consideration by council? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-28, authorizing a text change to the Land Development Code to change buffering in the technology manufacturing TM zone.
A second.
Motion a second, Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion passes. All right, we move on to item 10.3, discussion consideration of an ordinance authorizing a text change to the Land Development Code to replace Salt Lake County with Herriman City in regards to animal services.
So as you all know, we recently started our own animal service department. So there was just a couple of places in the zoning ordinance that referred to Salt Lake County Animal Control and Animal Services. This is merely a replacement with Herriman City Animal Services. None of the other requirements or text changed. Again, just striking out Salt Lake County and making that Herriman City. Planning Commission had a public hearing and recommended approval.
Okay, any discussion by the council?
Nope. I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 2019-29, authorizing a text change to the Land Development Code regarding animal services.
I'll second.
Motion a second, Nicole?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion passes. Item 10.4, discussion of the Creek Ridge Master Development Agreement.
Okay, we're going to be looking at two development agreements, requesting your input and direction. No decision to be made, just direction. So this developer is requesting an amendment to the development agreement. This is the area, you're familiar with this. So their proposed amendment is to reduce the maximum residential density in this master development agreement by 270 residential dwellings, resulting in a reduction from 1990 to 1720. They're asking for less units. Wow. The amended development agreement contemplates that the developer gets to choose where it comes from. So back to the picture, Area A on top, Area B just below the green space, and Area C. So give me your directions.
Is that the entire entire proposal from that particular developer at this time?
Yes, that's the amendment to the development agreement.
Will you go back to the map thingy, please? Thank you. So they just want to broke out over the whole thing. They're not
That's
being
what they're
specific.
requesting. Now, you might want to maybe out of A,
Yeah, that would be what I would love, is to see it come out of A. And/or A and B, but for sure A.
I mean, in all honesty, if they're reducing units, I don't really care where they bring it out of.
I think you will. I think you would.
I think you will too, because these could be even more up
I
here,
understand
right?
that. But I also want to make it very clear that while I'm okay with this, there would be nothing tied to, for any future request that would come from this.
This is independent. They're asking for this. Now, they might want to try to tie it to a later
Which
development
I would
agreement.
not do.
But
I wanna
But
make
this
that
is a
very clear.
standalone amendment.
Questions,
Once again,
discussion?
no action, just give me direction.
From what's presented, a reduction in units is great.
From all areas or just,
This goes back to, I know we talked about this, if we're talking reduction of units, Area A for me is where that would need to be limited to. we've already began development in areas B and C. I think that we're on a good path as far as what development is taking place there and how that's developing. I think the bulk of the units that are remaining to be developed that have been allocated to this piece is out of Area A. That's where the most density is. My likes would be that we limit that to Area A for the reduction of those units.
And I concur.
I concur also. I'd like it to be from Area A.
And yes, I would like that to be from Area A. However, I would not say no if it came out of Area B or C regardless, you know.
Okay.
Decrease in density is a decrease in density to me. My preference is from Area A.
All right, I think I have your direction on that one.
All right. Item 10.5, discussion of the Game Point Master Development Agreement. Is that going to be Gordon or is that going to be you?
What's that?
It says Gordon. Is it going to be you or Gordon?
It's,
John. All right.
I'm Gordon. No, not really. So this is a Game Point development agreement. It's more than just a development agreement, as you probably look through your package. It includes a repurchase option, a reimbursement agreement, and a participation agreement. Let's go through the development agreement because that's kind of the master and all its pieces and parts are identified in there. Well, this is the area. It's 2 lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2. You recognize the area? The project consists of a use that is allowed. Now, there's been a change in the, as requested by the developer, and I want to bring that to your attention. So Lot 1, rather than being a restaurant, what they want to do is have it be what's allowed by the zone and the ZC. And the zone and ZC basically limits it to food. And then Lot 2 is an entertainment center. So back when we get to Lot 1, I'll show you the exact language of the ZC that you put on that property. So the Planning Commission is working on the site plan and the design criteria that will be attached as an Exhibit C and D. There's a little, maybe a cart before the horse. It's going to be a little difficult to design or have design criteria for an unknown use, but we'll see what the Planning Commission does with it. But you'll see that before you approve it. Well, that's my point. Since the use on Lot 1 has not been identified, the design criteria will not apply to development of Lot 1 unless they put it specifically in there. We'll make sure they do it. So the development agreement vests the developer with the right to develop the project, and there's this window vesting that they have to get a building permit within 2 years, and then they only get 2 years basically after that to build.
John, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. I just want to, for the record, excuse Councilman Smith. He has an incident that he needs to attend to at this time, and so we were going to excuse him just for the record.
The city's commitment is on before December 31, 2019. The city shall construct a Main Street extension from its current terminus on Herriman Boulevard to the future location of Miller Crossing Drive, as shown on the plat. That's our commitment. And then on or before March 15th, the developer will pay the city $100,000 for their costs, basically for Miller acquisition costs, Miller Drive acquisition cost. And then we have a method or a mechanism to repay the developer from basically 2 buckets. One, impact fees, and the other from increment as the participation agreement. Those are the 2 agreements that are in addition that I referenced earlier. So the reimbursement agreement, it will pay 100% of the transportation impact fee generated and collected basically from their area. That won't give them $100,000, however. So They'll need some more money to repay them out of a participation agreement. So this is the agency, which you had the meeting on earlier. And this is kind of a little complicated, but the agency is going to receive 70% of the point of sale from the city, and then Game Point will receive 50% of that 70%. And it's only point of sale that we're talking about here. Aggregate of the increment and the impact fee reimbursement is $100,000. Now, this may get a little bit confusing here, but this is the developer's obligation to install street amenities. We define what street amenities are. Basically, it is not sidewalk.
No, it is sidewalk. It's not curb
Let
and
me
gutter.
take that back. You're right. It means sidewalk, but not curb and gutter.
So is it intended to include landscape and irrigation?
Yes, it says that later on.
And so I.
Street lights, landscaping, irrigation, et cetera.
So I requested that earlier today. Can we just flip that and just take that little,
Clarified that.
but not curb and gutter, just take that whole thing out of there and then just add a sentence on the end that says, not required to install curb and gutter. Because it got confusing to me when I read it that way. Again.
Yeah, it is confusing.
Because if we just say it means
Sure,
sidewalks.
whatever you say, if you think that's more clear.
Yeah.
The reason I put it in there is because you usually talk sidewalk, curb, and gutter are like three
Right.
words that go together.
Right, for sure, I understand that, but it confused me because it was like right in the middle. It made me feel like everything after that wasn't included. So if we could just clip that out, put it at the end to say,
Or just put parentheses and say excluding curb and gutter.
yeah, just something, it was just more, it was just confusing.
Have the
to me.
reader slow down a little bit as they read
Yes,
through those.
Yeah, I think, because I do think your point is well taken, that those three are often in one sentence, and so I do think the clarity here is important for
Okay.
the developer as well.
We'll do one or the other, and we'll bring it back and see what you think of it.
Perfect, thank you.
So the developer may only develop and construct a use that is allowed by the applicable zoning ordinance on Lot 1. So that's a change in the development agreement from the one you saw. And this is the exact language from the ordinance, the ZC. Is a land use on Lot 1, paren containing approximately 1.504 acres of the Game Point subdivision will be limited to general restaurant and related food services. I always like a belt and suspenders. This one you have no suspenders.
About,
So is that, do you, in your opinion, as our attorney, do you feel that that is sufficient to limit the type of business that can be?
Yes, it'll probably avoid an unintended consequence because in 10 years, we'll forget there's a development agreement or something and they might want to change. They'll have to come back and get the ZC changed, which is your bailiwick. Instead of a two-step dance, it'll be just a one-step, but it's still your approval.
And what would be the related food services? That's my biggest concern, is just what exactly is that? Would that entail?
Good question. Don't know. That's what the ZC said. I just put it, what was in here.
But that's our ZC, that's what we put in there.
Yep.
So in the zone, it'll define those kind of uses. The reason we wanted to do this is we started talking about some other kind of uses that we may want on this property. And the idea would be they could come back to the city council, ask to change the ZC to that item, but then we'd have to come back to the city council and amend the development agreement. And so make the development agreement consistent with the zone that you want. And so if all of a sudden we find a use that really looks exciting on this spot, we just can come to you with a ZC change. Right now, it's a food-related service, which is a restaurant, it could be a coffee shop, it could be donuts, I don't know.
I don't know if that term is, however, is defined.
I know this.
Now, to change the ZC, it'll have to go back through the planning commission process and then for the recommendation and then to you.
So a ZC change would have to come to us because it's a zoning.
The ZC change because it's a zoning change.
And I know this particular developer has been terrible to work with. And by terrible, I mean he's been really great to work with. And so I'm disposed to say that's fine. If that's what we went through and that's what we have already done.
Yeah, this is the exact language from the ordinance.
Okay.
So this is the developer may only construct on Lot 2, the Family Entertainment Center. Now, this is also different than you saw before. I added food to this. So it's a food establishment that stores, prepares, packages, serves, or otherwise provides food for human consumption where consumption is on or off premises. That was added. As you remember, that we just missed that.
Yeah.
So we put it in
Everything
the,
but food we have, huh?
in the outdoor or the Family Entertainment Center.
As I was reading through the paperwork that we got at our last meeting, I noticed somewhere it specifically called out that the entertainment center would have go-kart lanes. Was that an intentional addition, or was that something that may have accidentally got it added? And that might be something to clarify. I don't feel the need to require that in the agreement.
I'd have to go back and look at my drafts. I vaguely remember the concept go-karts, but I think this is a broader definition.
Yeah, well, the way it was worded, to me, it seemed as if it was going to be required that they had go-karts, and I didn't want to force something onto the developer that wasn't intended when we were just by simple error. So if we just, as we review this, we'll just make sure that we look for that specifically moving forward to make sure that we don't put something on there.
It's not in the draft that I
Fantastic.
have on my computer and that you're looking at.
And it wasn't in the,
It was in the original one that we had.
yeah, it wasn't in the development agreement.